I am a mute, abandoned by an affluent family, left to fend for myself in a quaint ancient town. One day, by chance, I stumbled upon a tall, handsome alpha. Alas, he was rather foolish. They say that a mute and a simpleton make an ideal pair. Thus, I brought him home, and our romance blossomed seamlessly. However, one fateful day, the simpleton ceased to be simple. Through the crack of the door, I glimpsed his sharp gaze, his demeanor cold and indifferent, his voice cutting through the air. Do you truly believe I would be enamored with a mute? Naturally, there are countless exquisite omegas surrounding you, young master, I replied, and in an instant, I felt as though I had plunged into an icy abyss, a chill enveloping my entire being. I hastily concealed my pregnancy and fled. Not long after, however, I was captured by my family and sent to a marriage arrangement. In the room, the alpha cornered me at the head of the bed, his familiar visage looming closer. His gaze was dangerously menacing. Shushu, where do you intend to take my baby? 1. The first encounter with Si Zhuoxiao occurred on a misty afternoon, enveloped in a veil of rain. The tranquil ancient town was suddenly pierced by a cacophony of voices ahead. I stepped forward, only to discover the local residents gathered around a stranger, engaged in animated discussion. He was a tall and handsome alpha, clad in ill-fitting attire, with several abrasions marring his otherwise striking features, presenting a somewhat disheveled appearance. Yet, his remarkable beauty remained undeniable. Furthermore, there was an unsettling vacancy in his gaze, his hands fidgeting unconsciously, and an expression of childlike naivety that belied his age. I pulled out a small notebook and inscribed a query, which I then passed to a nearby onlooker. Aunt Lin, what has transpired? Ah Xiaowen has arrived. Aunt Lin patted me and explained, we have a simpleton here, either lost or abandoned, and he doesn't respond to any inquiries. He even refuses to go to the police station. I lifted my gaze, locking eyes with the alpha who had turned to look at me. His deep-set eyes brimmed with a bewildered curiosity and admiration. Hey, Xiaowen still needs a partner, why not take him home? Though he may be a bit slow, he is undeniably handsome. Someone jested in my direction. Amidst the playful banter, the man took a few steps towards me, and against my better judgment, I found myself bringing him home. Words escaped me, and as I pondered how to communicate, I tentatively wrote another sentence for him, discovering that he could indeed read. He spoke clearly, but his demeanor was akin to that of a child, imbued with innocence and naivety. As if conversing with another, I jotted down sentences for our dialogue. Where do you come from? Do you have family? Family? The alpha tilted his head, seemingly in contemplation. I don't know, they've disappeared. My heart trembled, a hypothesis blooming within me. Could he, like me, have been abandoned by his family due to some flaw? Thus, I inquired, did they leave you behind? Yes, they no longer want me. What is your name? He stared at me intently. CC, he stammered. CC? I nodded and replied, my name is Wensu. I am not a native of this place. 3 years prior, I was cast out by my family and stumbled upon this ancient town of Jiangnan, where I settled. By a twist of fate, I became an apprentice in the art of Su embroidery, relying on this skill to survive. My abode in the ancient town is modest, comprising merely a bedroom, yet the bed is spacious enough for us to share comfortably, each with our own quilt. I informed CC that he could reside here with me, and while we may not live in opulence, we would never go hungry. The man's face lit up with joy, a broad smile breaking across his features, his eyes surprisingly bright. 2. With the addition of a new companion, the atmosphere at home became livelier. Most of the time, I would be in my studio embroidering, primarily crafting silk scarves and round fans. The first time he witnessed my embroidery, CC sat obediently nearby, filled with curiosity. As I worked, wonder gradually illuminated his face, and he exclaimed, so impressive, like an innocent child, Susu, you are amazing. He insisted on calling me Susu, perhaps in his mind, it felt more affectionate. CC was quite clingy. If he couldn't see me for more than a few minutes, he would fret and call out for Susu. I was unable to speak, so I endeavored to appear before him as swiftly as possible whenever he sought me out. He too yearned for companionship. Aside from his immature intellect, CC was surprisingly nimble. While in the studio with me, he would help organize my tools and promptly hand me materials. Initially, he was somewhat clumsy, making numerous mistakes, but gradually he became adept, proving to be a passable little assistant. He was quite considerate, never interrupting me during work. However, during breaks or mealtime, He would chatter away like a little sparrow, bombarding me with questions. Although our communication was limited to my notebook, he remained undeterred. One day he asked Susu, "Why can't you speak?" Because I was injured in the past. I was not born mute. Several years ago, an accident damaged my vocal cords, and I missed the optimal window for treatment, leaving me unable to speak ever since.
Sisi pouted, appearing somewhat disheartened.
Then, with a determined expression, he declared, "In the future, I will protect Susu, and you won't get hurt anymore." My heart ached slightly. I understood this was merely a promise from an alpha with an incomplete mind, a promise that held little weight. Yet, it was the first time someone had uttered such words to me, stirring something within. 3. I purchased numerous fairy tale books for CC, so he would have something to occupy himself with during moments of boredom, thus alleviating the need for him to be constantly by my side in the studio. However, to my astonishment, these few fairy tale books transformed into his bedtime stories, which he insisted on reading aloud to me. On a distant planet, there was a star called Little Star, who was very lonely because there were no star friends to play with him. CC's voice was somewhat cool, deep, and resonant, yet it carried the playful intonations of a child, rendering it both delightful and soothing to hear. From that day on, Little Star and his star friends illuminated the night sky. As I succumbed to slumber, lulled by CC's gentle and soothing voice, I would awaken each morning to find him as the first face I saw, either his serene sleeping visage or his earnest gaze, fixed upon me as he blinked awake. The ancient town, while not heavily commercialized, attracted visitors daily. I would select a day or two each week to set up a small stall in the marketplace to sell my wares. During my apprenticeship, my mentor had praised my talent, noting that the items I embroidered were exquisite and imbued with spirit. Consequently, my business flourished, and I garnered a modest reputation, with customers willing to travel great distances to patronize my stall. After CC's arrival, my stall saw the addition of a lively promoter. He enthusiastically and proudly showcased my creations to passers-by, exclaiming, "This is a priceless treasure made by Susu." Everyone would chuckle at his exuberance, happily making purchases. Soon, the townsfolk were well aware of the lovable, simple-minded alpha who was my superfan. For life in the ancient town was tranquil and unhurried. A kindly gentleman gifted me an old television set that he no longer needed. Each evening, CC and I would curl up on the modest sofa to watch television. Like many boys, CC harbored dreams of heroism, particularly enamored with Ultraman. During thrilling moments, he would leap to his feet, earnestly mimicking transformation poses and launching imaginary beams. As I chuckled and captured these moments on my phone, he performed with even greater fervor. His natural handsomeness shone through, and he exuded the charm of a leading character. As he became familiar with our surroundings, CC occasionally ventured out to play, returning with delightful treats and amusements for me. I considered myself a diligent person, aside from my penchant for sleeping in. Now, each morning greeted me with a steaming hot breakfast. The alpha patiently sat at the dining table, and upon seeing me, flashed a goofy yet sincere smile. "Good morning, Susu." "Good morning, CC, thank you." I felt guilty for having him buy for me too often. Yet, as I savored the meal, I could not help but relish it. One bright afternoon, CC gazed at me intently for an extended period, his eyes ablaze with curiosity. Noticing his silence, I jotted down a question. "What is it?" Alpha, with a hint of shyness, flushed crimson and after a moment of hesitation, finally mustered the courage to speak. "Shushu, may we share a kiss?" Not receiving a prompt response from me, he continued, "They say I am your alpha, and since we are to be married in the future, we should exchange kisses and embraces to nurture our bond." After contemplating for a moment, I replied, "Such gestures should be shared with someone you truly care for." He asserted with unwavering conviction, "I care for you, Shushu." It is difficult for anyone to deny such earnest and fervent affection. Ultimately, I merely penned a few words. "I am not yet ready." Following that, CC would inquire daily, "Shushu, are you ready?" Morning, noon, and night, he never forgot. A gentle drizzle fell like threads, lightly cascading upon the azure waves, creating a hazy mist that resembled a flowing ink wash painting. CC and I sat in a black canopy boat, swaying with the river, relishing the serene and tranquil moments. He nestled closely beside me, holding my hand, gently kneading it. His gaze was direct and sincere. "Shushu, are you ready?" I found myself lost in his eyes, my heart fluttering like the misty rain. Nodding, I offered a response unlike any before. Alpha's fervent lips met mine. His kiss was eager and somewhat chaotic, revealing his inexperience. Yet, I found myself utterly enraptured, my heart racing. Before parting, he even playfully nipped at my lip. "Shushu, you taste so sweet." Cece embraced me tightly. His laughter brimmed with joy. From that kiss onward, our relationship drew ever closer, becoming irresistibly profound. Sharing the same blanket, he would hold me every night as we drifted to sleep. His clinginess intensified, and kisses and embraces became the norm. Gradually, I succumbed to this unreserved affection. To be candid, I found myself growing fond of him. His eyes and heart were filled with thoughts of me, treating me with a kindness I had never before experienced. His presence infused my once dreary home with vibrancy and warmth. I wished to awaken each day to see him, longing for his everlasting company. The little mute girl and the big fool were in love. The neighbors in the ancient town, who had shown me such kindness, were aware of this development. While they sincerely congratulated us, I sensed a hint of pity and compassion in their eyes. I understood their sentiment. Two flawed individuals together would likely not have an easy life. Yet I felt otherwise. I cherished my current existence. It was stable and peaceful, filled with companionship, and each day felt fulfilling. Love did not have to be grand and tumultuous. I found happiness in this simple, unremarkable life. One morning, as I opened my eyes, I was once again nestled in CC's embrace, his large, warm hands resting on my waist. His low, innocent voice whispered in my ear, "Shushu, I feel uncomfortable." At that moment, I sensed a heat pressing against my rear. The remnants of sleep faded away. With an innocent and somewhat distressed tone, Alpha exclaimed, "It's standing up. What should I do?" The cool scent of mint wafted through the air, as if it had come alive, brushing against me. I inhaled deeply, feeling my skin flush. Turning to face Cece, his handsome visage loomed larger before me, causing my heart to skip a beat. I blinked at him playfully before kissing his lips. His response was an intensified fervor, his touch becoming urgent and insistent. The fragrance of jasmine intertwined with the mint, merging harmoniously. Time slipped away, and Cece began to nibble and kiss the soft flesh at the nape of my neck. The treatment sent shivers throughout my body, enveloped in a curious exhilaration. His sharp canines finally pierced the flesh, injecting pheromones into me. Words eluded me as I gazed at him with hazy eyes, only able to emit soft, cat-like whimpers. The marking concluded. Cece held me close, his large hands soothing my back, as he leaned in to gently blow on the small protrusion on my neck. He then cooed like a child, "Shushu, dear, it doesn't hurt." I closed my eyes, lulled by the scent of mint, and drifted back to sleep. Though it was merely a temporary marking, I felt my dependence on Cece growing stronger. I often found myself subconsciously seeking his presence, yearning to be close to him. Initially, I felt bashful and embarrassed. However, as someone marked by an alpha, his scent perpetually beckoned me. Unable to resist any longer, I scribbled a message in my notebook, holding it above my head for Cece to see. "ACI, could you spend more time with me?" His delight and excitement at my response were palpable. He embraced me tightly, showering me with kisses and repeatedly calling me wifey, releasing pheromones to soothe me. I had ample reason to suspect that Cece possessed a natural talent for intimate interactions. His hugs and kisses became increasingly adept, leaving me dizzy and enthralled. Alpha's sensitivity surged unexpectedly. The intense mint fragrance overwhelmed the room. Cece held me tightly, burying his face in my neck, inhaling deeply. "Shushu, Shushu, my precious wife," he murmured, his breath warm and filled with longing. His dark, lustrous eyes glimmered with a faint blush, his entire being radiating heat. Enveloped in such potent pheromones, I felt my body grow warmer and softer, succumbing to the heat wave myself. Alpha's kisses came down fervently and rapidly. Instinctively, I grasped his broad shoulders, our bodies colliding and intertwining, as my vision blurred and my voice became a series of hoarse, indistinct sounds. Together, we immersed ourselves in a sea of enchanting desire, the scents of jasmine and mint entwining, lingering in the air. Cece indeed possessed an extraordinary aptitude for such matters. For 3 whole days and nights, aside from the occasional meal or bathroom break, I found myself repeatedly pressed against the bed, turning and tossing under his playful ministrations. Awakening from slumber, it was already the afternoon of the fourth day. At last, Alpha's sensitivity had waned. My body felt utterly drained, as if it had been dismantled, and I lay languidly in bed, reluctant to move an inch. Cece returned with an abundance of food, feeding me lovingly, his eyes filled with concern and guilt. Nestled in his embrace, my heart swelled with sweetness. On my birthday, I whimsically bought a cake to share with Cece. Previously, I had no interest in celebrating alone, but now I had someone to enjoy it with. Cece had long forgotten his own birthday and decided to treat today as our shared celebration. I even gifted him a genuine Ultraman transformation device. The cake was deliciously sweet, and we lit candles to make wishes. Upon opening my eyes, Cece eagerly declared his wish. I want to be with Shushu forever. The candlelight illuminated his face, softening his handsome features. I smiled. That night we played until late. As I drifted into a drowsy sleep, I felt Cece place something around my neck and kiss my forehead. Shushu, this is for you. Happy birthday. Overwhelmed by fatigue, I closed my eyes and succumbed to sleep. The next morning, I discovered a jade ring hanging around my neck. Its material was exquisite, smooth and delicate, as if it contained the essence of moonlight from millennia past, exuding an air of nobility and mystery. I inquired about its origin, and Cece replied that he had always kept it with him. As I gazed at the ring, a peculiar sensation stirred within me, a hint of inexplicable unease. Days passed as usual, one after another. That evening, while watching television with Cece, I inadvertently caught sight of one MO on the screen, resplendent and regal, resembling a prince. He is my half-brother, unlike me who has been cast aside. He is the legitimate young master cherished by the one family, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I changed the channel with an unperturbed demeanor, instinctively leaning closer to Cece. He took the opportunity to wrap his arms around me, resting his chin atop my crown of hair. Shushu, are you cold? If I hold you, you won't be cold. I had once believed that such tranquil and stable days would last a lifetime. On that fateful day, I ventured out alone to procure some ingredients. Suddenly, I felt a sharp cramp in my lower abdomen, accompanied by a faint pain. I recalled my recent lack of appetite, occasional headaches, nausea, and a sense of heaviness in my chest. Since I was already out, I decided to visit the hospital. The results were both surprising and reasonable. I was pregnant. The baby was 3 weeks old. Throughout my journey home, I felt as though I were in a dream, disoriented and lightheaded. I was going to have a baby, a child with Cece. In just a few months, our home would be filled with the sweet sounds of a baby. We would become a family of 3. I quickened my pace, eager to share this news with Cece. What would his reaction be? However, upon returning home, I heard an unfamiliar voice emanating from behind the slightly ajar door. Young master, when will you return to the capital? A familiar voice responded, soon. Through the gap in the door, I glimpsed a man clad in a suit, standing respectfully before Cece. And Cece, the naive fool I knew all too well, sat languidly in a chair, devoid of his usual foolishness. His eyes were sharp, his expression aloof, and his handsome features betrayed a hint of impatience, exuding an aura that warned others to keep their distance. The man inquired further, what about the person living with you? Will you take them back? Cece glanced up, casting a casual look at him, his voice icy. Do you think I would like a mute? Naturally, there are countless high-quality omegas around you, the man replied. I was taken aback, as if a wave of icy dread surged through me, freezing my very blood. I could no longer focus on their conversation. I shuffled away, like a marionette whose strings had been severed. After aimlessly wandering outside for a considerable time, I returned home. It was quiet inside. Cece was not there. I breathed a sigh of relief and entered, calmly gathering my belongings. I packed swiftly, taking only what was necessary. Before leaving, I hesitated, removing the ring from my neck and placing it in a conspicuous spot, then taking with me a fairy tale book we had read together. It would serve as a memento. Rather than being cast aside once more, I preferred to depart with dignity. I purchased a train ticket on a whim, taking only a few belongings, eager to escape as far as possible. In truth, the signs had been there all along, whether it was his sudden appearance or the conspicuously valuable jade ring. Yet I had been selfish and greedy, clinging to the faintest glimmer of possibility. Opening my phone, I found myself involuntarily clicking into the photo album. The screen was filled with images of Cece smiling at me. The suppressed emotions surged forth, a tumult of grievance, discomfort, and sorrow, mingling into a knot that nearly suffocated me. Drops of tears fell onto the screen, blurring his face. I was a mute that everyone would scorn. At this moment, all I could do was sob silently in my helplessness. Yet I had been on the verge of having a complete family. Days without Cece proved to be more arduous than I had anticipated. I couldn't sleep at night, nor could I eat much during the day. Without the soothing presence of alpha pheromones, an inexplicable anxiety tormented me incessantly. I lacked the energy to engage in any activity. Occasional abdominal pains seemed to signal the baby's distress. I forced myself to eat. I had a baby to think about. I wanted him to be born safely. This disoriented existence lasted for about 2 weeks. Unexpectedly, the one family sought me out. They unceremoniously brought me back to the one household in the capital. After a long time, I faced that familiar, indifferent visage, my biological father, Wen Qian. Lacking my notebook, I resorted to sign language, gesturing, "What do you want?" He had never learned sign language and thus could not comprehend my words. With his usual impatience and disdain, he remarked, "This is all you're good for." He continued, "Someone specifically requested you. Is it your face that has caught their eye?" It was only later that I learned Wen Qian intended to arrange a marriage for me. It was utterly absurd. I had never even met the person. The one family had gone to great lengths to bring me back home. This marriage would undoubtedly benefit them. But why should I have to sacrifice myself for the sake of the one family's interests? I refuse. I communicated through signs, writing on my phone, expressing my resistance. However, it was futile. Wen Qian would not permit my departure, ignoring my defiance. He had someone watching me, forbidding me from stepping outside. Alone and unsupported, I found myself powerless against him. 2 days later, when Mo arrogantly strutted into my room, his handsome face was filled with disdain and contempt. "Your looks certainly attract attention, but what does it matter if you marry him? He could never possibly like someone like you. A mute, just wait to be toyed with." When Mo gazed at me, a malicious smile curling at the corners of his mouth. He had never liked me, and now, with the opportunity to kick me while I was down, he relished it. I chose to ignore him. Based on past experiences, the more I engaged with him, the more he would revel in it, endlessly. Wen Qian had been subtly warning me to behave and not to entertain thoughts of escaping the marriage. He seemed particularly wary of my so-called betrothed. I had no idea who it was and had no desire to find out. In any case, I was unwilling to marry him. During one of Wen Qian's lengthy admonishments, I informed him, "I have already been marked by an alpha and am pregnant." His hypocritical expression froze, gradually morphing into anger. He violently swept a teacup to the ground, producing a sharp sound and splattering hot tea onto my hand, stinging my skin. I remained expressionless, calmly observing him. "Shameless, disgraceful," he berated me. "All you do is indulge in chaos." When Mo was also present, and upon hearing this news, he laughed until tears streamed down his face, delighting in my misfortune. "You're finished." Yet, Wen Qian did not alter his decision regarding the marriage. Here, they did not mistreat me in terms of food and clothing. I preferred to remain in my room, avoiding both of them. I consoled myself with the hope that if I were to meet the betrothed, I could disclose my circumstances. Surely, no one would wish to marry a marked Omega who was already pregnant. In the stillness of the night, I often found myself reminiscing about the peaceful and happy days not long ago in the ancient town, where in the eyes of an alpha, I was reflected alone, the warmth in my arms providing solace. Yet in my dreams, that gentle face turned cold as ice. I could never like a mute. After spending half a month in the one household, one day, several individuals arrived to take me away. The leader, a young man in a black suit, was of unknown standing, yet Wen Qian treated him with utmost deference. I could roughly surmise that I was to meet my betrothed, and I offered no resistance. Quietly, I followed them to an opulent mansion. It was vast and luxurious, a house so resplendent that it could easily be mistaken for a castle. To my surprise, the inhabitants within greeted me with warmth. "Welcome, young master," a person approached as soon as I entered, taking my luggage with ease. "Just leave it to us." Instinctively, I communicated in sign language. "Thank you. You are too kind. Would you like something to eat?" "Anything will do. I'm not picky." "Very well," she replied. "You may call me Aunt Zhang. The gentleman has business today and will return later." I was taken aback. She could understand sign language. I remained until evening, but I still did not see the man. From my initial apprehension and caution, I gradually began to relax. It seemed that things were not as dire as I had imagined. At least for now, they treated me well. In the room, the bed beneath me was both large and soft. After sitting for a while and still waiting for his arrival, I glanced at my phone and saw that it was nearly midnight. Sleepiness overcame me, and I lay down, closing my eyes and drifting off. In my half-conscious state, I felt as though I had fallen back into that familiar, warm embrace. I slept surprisingly well. Upon opening my eyes, I was greeted by CC's sharply defined face. Just like countless mornings before, I blinked in a daze, realizing I was still dreaming. Such a vivid dream. I could even smell his refreshing minty scent. My body relaxed in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Soon, the alpha opened his eyes. His inky gaze reflected a sleepily dazed version of me. Since this was merely a dream, would it be permissible to act upon my impulses? With that thought, I draped an arm around his neck, drawing closer and burying my head in his chest. I truly missed him. Even after hearing that he did not harbor feelings for me, the memories of our time together would occasionally resurface, bringing forth an undeniable flutter of nostalgia. Shoo-shoo. I felt his hand resting on the back of my head, stroking gently. Good morning. What would you like to eat? I can ask Auntie to prepare something. His deep voice resonated from above, and I could even feel the slight vibration in his chest as he spoke. As my senses sharpened and memories flooded back, I finally realized this was not a dream. Almost instinctively, I abruptly pushed the man away and retreated from his embrace. I quickly sat up, clutching the blanket tightly, anxiously gazing at the person before me. Did you have a nightmare? He looked at me, brow furrowed. No need to be afraid. Come here for a hug. He reached out, attempting to pull me back into his embrace, but I recoiled from him. I could feel that CC had indeed changed. He was no longer foolish. The cold demeanor that naturally graced his features stood in stark contrast to the once harmless and naive persona he had. Yet, why did he still speak to me with such tenderness? I couldn't comprehend it, biting my lip, without considering whether he understood. I gestured in sign language. Keep your distance from me. His expression darkened slightly. Impossible. He moved closer, seizing my wrist, trapping me at the head of the bed. There was a dangerous glint in his dark eyes. Shoo-shoo. Where do you think you're taking my baby? I widened my eyes. How did he know? You are not him. I struggled against his grip, gesturing emphatically. How can I not be? The man advanced, pointing to a mark on his exposed collarbone. See, you bit me. He was bare-chested, wearing only knee-length shorts. The muscle definition was striking, exuding a wild beauty. After the countless nights we had spent together, we had become quite familiar with each other's bodies. Seeing him like this upon waking, I had momentarily failed to notice anything amiss. Hearing his words now, a flush of embarrassment crept over me. I stammered, "He likes Ultraman." A hint of irritation flickered across that breathtaking face, but it quickly reverted to normal. Indeed, I do like it. I still have the transformation device you gifted me. Would you like to see it? I was rendered speechless. After a moment of silence, I decided to throw caution to the wind. I heard everything you said to that person that day. I gestured, a wave of bitterness rising within me. You were right. I am just a mute, and you. It was entirely natural for you not to like me. But before I could finish, he abruptly pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. I could not see his expression, but his affectionate murmurs filled my ears. You are my shoo-shoo, my darling, my only wife. Felt like a lie. He had not said such things before. I pushed against CC, but he held on tightly, making it impossible for me to escape. I'm sorry, my darling shoo-shoo, he whispered, kissing my earlobe. He is not one of my subordinates. I said those things to lower his guard. The previous master's household was quite tumultuous, but everything has been resolved now. What I said that day was not sincere. His voice, typically cool, now carried a hint of vulnerable remorse. But everything I have told you before, every word, has been heartfelt. I like you very much. Shoo-shoo. That day you didn't come back for so long. I went out searching for you but couldn't find you anywhere. When I returned home and found that you had left, do you know how worried and distressed I was? I was stunned, momentarily at a loss for how to react. Was he telling the truth? Could I trust him? My rational mind warned against easily believing him. Yet, The rapid beating of my heart and the overwhelming joy that threatened to spill over revealed my subconscious feelings. I was elated. Hearing him say he truly liked me filled me with happiness. CC held me for what felt like an eternity. After releasing me, he repeated the tender gestures of affection, kissing my forehead, nose, cheeks, and lips with an ease that felt both intimate and natural. I was enveloped in warmth from his kisses. After a long pause, he held on to me once more, refusing to let go. Remembering something, I asked, "Can you understand sign language?" "Yes," he replied, a smile playing at his lips. "I learned recently." So it was for me? CC was not merely CC. His full name was Si Zhuoxiao. Gradually, I came to understand that he was now the head of the illustrious Si family in the capital, wielding immense power. He was reputed to be ruthless, unpredictable, and emotionally detached, known as the cold-faced king of hell. Yet, here he was, diligently and lovingly caring for me, which made me question the validity of such a reputation, surely concocted by his enemies. He was, in truth, gentle and treated me with the same kindness as before. The alpha was no longer foolish. He no longer excitedly mimicked transformations or read fairy tales to me, nor did he eagerly watch amusing tales like the ants move or the little cat catches mice. But he still called me Shushu repeatedly, with a tenderness that was both sweet and lingering, always remaining by my side, showering me with kisses and embraces. Initially, I felt a bit out of place and anxious, as his aura was overwhelmingly strong, naturally imbued with a chill. However, after spending some time together, my unease completely faded. The jade ring had been returned to my neck. I sensed its significance. Observing his calm yet resolute expression, I swallowed my words of refusal, secretly vowing to protect it with utmost care. His home is extraordinarily spacious, brimming with abundant food, and each meal is a delightful variation, offering a plethora of entertainment rooms where one can indulge in any pastime of choice. Yet, despite all this, my preference remains to be in his presence. Perhaps it is the arrival of our baby and the long-awaited reunion that has deepened my reliance on Alpha to an unprecedented degree. The mere thought of being apart from him for even a moment sends waves of anxiety coursing through me. Suzuxio is acutely aware of this, often enveloping me in his embrace, gently patting my back, and releasing pheromones to soothe my nerves. Embarrassed, I confess to him, "Once this period passes, I promise I won't cling to you so much." "Why not?" he responds, a frown of discontent creasing his brow. "Who else could you seek if not your husband? I implore you to cling to me." With the presence of a father, our unborn child has settled down considerably. However, it wasn't long before Suzuxio insisted on taking me for a comprehensive prenatal checkup. Thankfully, everything appeared normal. Afterward, rather than departing, he took me for a throat examination. I held no expectations, having lost my voice for many years. When the one family had previously brought me to the hospital, the prognosis had been bleak. Thus, when the doctor informed me that my vocal cords were merely damaged and that complete recovery was a possibility through treatment, I was taken aback with astonishment and joy. "Treat?" I barely grasped the situation when I heard Suzuxio assert firmly, "I demand the best treatment plan available." Subsequently, I underwent numerous meticulous examinations. Suzuxio even assembled a team of distinguished physicians to devise and implement a treatment strategy tailored specifically for me. They discovered that aside from the damage to my vocal cords, a significant reason for my inability to speak was the immense psychological trauma I had endured. During the psychologist's gentle inquiries, my thoughts drifted back to that day of despair. In the ruins of our collapsed home, my mother shielded me beneath her, warm blood trickling down the side of my head, staining my vision crimson. I screamed and howled, yearning to transmit my voice beyond the layers of debris. Yet, time stretched interminably, until the heartbeat thrumming against my back quieted, and I was left without sound, nearly losing consciousness. Still, I awaited a glimmer of hope that never arrived. When I awoke again, I found myself in a hospital. I had been saved, yet my mother, the sole person who had ever shown me kindness, had departed from this world forever that day. From your descriptions, I can sense the anguish, despair, and guilt that filled your heart at that time. However, one undeniable truth remains. It was that unstoppable disaster that claimed your mother's life. You did everything within your power. Your mother loved you dearly and, until her last breath, would have no regrets about her choice to protect you. Perhaps you could attempt to forgive yourself and emerge from the ruins of that despair. I blinked in a daze, gripping the hand that held mine tightly. The treatment for my vocal cords and my psychological therapy proceeded in tandem. According to Suzuxio, in a week's time, I was to undergo vocal cord repair surgery. If all went well, I would soon be able to speak again. This was a notion I had never dared to entertain. I had assumed I would be mute for life. Alpha embraced me from behind, slightly leaning to rest his head on my shoulder, whispering softly, "Don't be afraid. The success rate of the surgery is very high. I will ensure nothing goes awry." I nodded gently. He inquired, "Did your mother say anything to you during that time?" The buried memories began to resurface. I raised my hand, gesturing 2 words, health and happiness. This was her blessing for me. "Yes, she would," Suzuxio replied. "Your mother, watching from above, will surely be overjoyed to see you well." A smile spread across my face as I turned to him, offering a faint grin. Alpha leaned in, showering me with kisses. "My darling, I long to hear your voice. I want to exchange morning and evening greetings, to hear you call my name and profess your love, especially at night in bed. I yearn for those affirming whispers when you cling to my shoulder." His words grew increasingly audacious, prompting me to hastily cover his mouth. The night before the surgery, I struggled with insomnia. Lying in Suzuxio's embrace, I tossed and turned, unable to find rest. After yet another restless shift, I felt his hand tighten around my waist, accompanied by a soft gasp. Sensing the heat radiating from behind me, I immediately stilled. Sharing a bed, the atmosphere inevitably stirred. Yet, with a baby on the way, we could no longer indulge in our former reckless abandon. We had to find solace in other ways. "Darling, go to sleep," Suzuxio urged as he rose to head to the bathroom. However, upon his return, I was still awake. I looked at him and signed, "I want to hear a story." Sitting up, I leaned into his embrace. Alpha cradled the nearly worn-out fairy tale book, softly beginning, "In a forest lived a timid fox." As his deep, resonant voice enveloped me, I gradually drifted into slumber. The surgery was a resounding success. After the recovery period, the doctor announced that today was the day I could attempt to speak. Suzuxio's gaze was intense, and for the first time, his usually composed demeanor showed signs of trepidation. I curled my fingers and slightly parted my lips, attempting to produce sounds. "SC." A wave of astonishment mixed with joy surged within me as I realized I could indeed speak. I made a determined effort to repeat the sounds. "SC." I stumbled over his full name, Si Jua Xiao. My attempts were halting and unrefined, my voice still somewhat hoarse. Yet, the delight and excitement in Suzuxio's eyes were almost overwhelming. He leaned in, kissing the corners of my mouth tenderly. "Yes, I am here, you did wonderfully." Although I had regained my voice, years of silence meant it would take time to reach a level of normalcy in my speech. Suzuxio became my practice partner, patiently guiding me through pronunciation, frequently showering me with praise akin to that given to a child. Over the past few weeks, he had scarcely left my side, likely neglecting his work. Once I felt my voice was nearly restored, I insisted he return to his office. Feeling bored staying at home, I expressed my desire to resume my previous work, as it was something I genuinely cherished. Without hesitation, Suzuxio procured an extensive array of top-tier Su embroidery materials for me and even arranged for a dedicated workspace to be designed in our home. During the daytime when we were apart, he would video call me, and I would see him seated at his desk, impeccably dressed in a suit. "Are you tired, my dear? Perhaps you should take a break," he suggested. "I'm not tired," I replied, my speech still somewhat sluggish. "What about you? Are you tired?" He smiled. "I'm not tired. I simply miss you too much." His handsome face filled the screen, and he tilted his head. "Could you give me a kiss, darling? Otherwise, I lack the motivation to work." After a moment of hesitation, noticing he was alone, I slowly leaned forward, pressing my lips against the camera. A triumphant smile graced his face. "Thank you, my love. I adore you." His unabashedly sentimental words left me slightly embarrassed. My cheeks flushed as I lowered my head. Alpha persisted. "What about you, darling? Do you miss me?" I bit my lip. "I do." Life continued normally, our baby growing steadily within me. Suzuxio and I scheduled our wedding for a month later. Recently, I found myself sleeping more, often feeling drowsy. One day, Suzuxio announced he would take me to a charity auction gala. Just before heading out, I still felt somewhat lethargic, a hint of fatigue lingering. Seeing this, Si Zhuoxiao remarked, "Perhaps we should refrain from going today. My dear can rest at home." I perched on the edge of the bed, lifting my gaze to meet his. "We are going," I declared resolutely. It was a commitment made prior, and I had no desire to dampen his spirits. The alpha knelt gracefully, one hand resting on his knee, as he gently clasped my ankle to assist me in putting on my shoes. Observing his earnest demeanor, I found myself inexplicably reaching out to tousle his hair, akin to a large, affectionate dog. The banquet was abuzz with merriment. The hall was resplendent, adorned with opulent decorations and dazzling lights that twinkled in a splendid array. Upon our entrance, I instantly felt the collective gaze of numerous attendees fixate on Si Zhuoxiao and me. This evening we donned matching suits which, as Si Zhuoxiao had conveyed to the designer, were deemed couple outfits. Under the scrutiny of so many eyes, I felt a wave of discomfort wash over me, causing me to blink awkwardly. Si Zhuoxiao, sensing my unease as he held my hand, tenderly caressed the back of my hand, soothing me. Gradually, I found solace in the presence of the alpha. Many present were acquaintances of Si Zhuoxiao, all treating him with utmost deference. I stood beside him, somewhat bewildered, as he repeatedly introduced me as his beloved fiancé and partner. Everyone was exceedingly courteous, casting curious and astonished glances in my direction. When Si Zhuoxiao stepped away to attend to business matters, fatigue began to set in, prompting me to take a seat and await his return. As I sat in a daze, an unexpected figure approached. "When Su, you are here as well." When Mo sauntered over, wine glass in hand, his tone as haughty as ever. "You seem to be basking in glory now. But don't get too smug. It won't be long before you're cast aside. Don't come crying back." I lifted my gaze to him, disinterested in engaging. "Go away. Can you speak now?" A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by disdain. "So what if you are better? You are merely a pretty pet, destined to be despised." Just as I was about to retort, a familiar voice resonated from behind, imbued with an unmistakable chill. "What stray dog dares to bark in front of my beloved?" I turned to see Si Zhuoxiao approaching. "See," I called out to him. When his eyes met mine, the frosty demeanor softened slightly. Su," he replied, taking my hand. The surrounding clamor fell silent in an instant, as all eyes turned to witness the unfolding scene. When Mo's complexion paled, the arrogance he once held dissipating entirely. "Mr. Si, how dare such riffraff enter?" Si Zhuoxiao dismissed his attempt at explanation with a sweeping glance towards the approaching security. "Remove him." When Mo stood frozen, and as the security personnel advanced, he began to panic, his words tumbling out in a jumbled rush. "Mr. Si, when Su previously sought the company of a wild man, do not be swayed by him. He is unworthy of you." At those words, the atmosphere around Si Zhuoxiao shifted, his expression turning cold and menacing, a palpable tension radiating from him. It was the first time I had witnessed him in such a state. Was he truly angry? He let out a derisive laugh. "Are you seeking death? The one by Su's side has always been me." With that declaration, Si Zhuoxiao averted his gaze, as though merely looking at when Mo would bring him misfortune. I chose not to engage further, allowing the security to escort him away. Later, I learned that when Mo did not manage to gain entry, it was a minor incident that I soon dismissed. Shortly thereafter, the auction commenced. Si Zhuoxiao and I took our seats in the VIP section, observing the array of auction items being presented. The theme of the auction celebrated traditional Chinese culture, captivating my interest as I gazed wide-eyed at each exhibit. Si Zhuoxiao, however, appeared indifferent, idly toying with my hand, squeezing and caressing it occasionally. Whenever I expressed admiration for a piece, he would bid without hesitation. "That's far too much," I gently chided, scratching his palm in a subtle reminder. "Why bid on so many?" He replied, "These are for Su. It's not excessive at all." Just as I was about to respond, the next item was unveiled, and I recognized it instantly. It was my own creation. A piece of Su embroidery, a labor of love that consumed hundreds of days, employing over a dozen stitching techniques and my utmost effort. After its completion, I had entrusted it to Si Zhuoxiao, hoping he could find a worthy buyer. I never expected to see it again in such a setting. The starting bid was an astonishing 800,000, leaving me astounded. Bidders flocked in, far more than I had anticipated. Ultimately, it was Si Zhuoxiao who secured it for 7 million. Stunned, my words fumbled. This is far too expensive. And why did you bid on it again?" "It is not expensive. I simply adore it," he replied, raising an eyebrow. Of course I want a piece crafted by Susu. If you cherish it, I could create another for you, I whispered softly to him. Around us, I could occasionally hear hushed whispers. Goodness, the ring around his neck. Doesn't it signify the heir of the C family? Previously uninterested in such matters, Mr. C is now purchasing numerous items for her, they murmured. Clearly, the rumors are unfounded. Mr. C is evidently quite taken with her. Indeed, did you see just now? That lad from the one family was dismissed after uttering just a few words. What is her background that she has captured the interest of someone from the C family? Although their voices were low, I could not help but overhear snippets of their conversation. The realization that we were the subject of discussion made me feel somewhat awkward. However, Si Zhuoxiao merely cast a sidelong glance, and the whispers ceased immediately. Under Si Zhuoxiao's persistent inquiries, I divulged the complexities of my past with the one family. He showed no particular reaction at the time, merely lowering his gaze to tenderly stroke my hair, softly assuring me, "From now on, this will be your home, our home." I smiled in response. Before long, the one family began frantically calling, texting, and messaging me incessantly. I was oblivious to their motives and had no desire to know. I blocked them and changed my phone number. From the moment I severed ties with them, I resolved never to re-establish contact. Later, I happened to see on television that the one family had gone bankrupt, and Wen Qian had been imprisoned for criminal activities. As for Wen Mo, I heard he had been in a car accident while driving under the influence, lying in the ICU, fighting for his life. Our wedding proceeded as planned. It was a modest affair with a select few guests, yet the venue, decorations, officiant, and band were all of the highest caliber. I experienced a grand wedding unlike anything I had ever envisioned. We even invited neighbors from the old town, like Aunt Lin, Uncle Zhang, and Brother Dayu. As I looked upon their familiar faces, a genuine smile graced my lips. Si Zhuoxiao raised his glass and approached Brother Dayu's table. The guests stood in astonishment as he spoke. Laughter erupted around the table. I could surmise what had transpired. Back when Si Zhuoxiao was still somewhat naive, those brothers had certainly misled him. They were the ones who suggested he come to me for sweet kisses and embraces. As the revelry began to subside, night fell, and in the wedding suite it was just the two of us. A mere exchange of glances led us to naturally embrace in a kiss. The delicate fragrance of jasmine and the refreshing scent of mint enveloped us, intertwining in the air. The alpha's breath was warm, brushing against my ear. "Su, is it all right?" I wrapped my arms around his neck, sinking into the softness of the bed. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting a silvery glow over us. Soon after, I changed my name, adopting my mother's surname, now called Ning Su. As she wished, I embraced each day with joy. The conversation flowed effortlessly, indistinguishable from that of an ordinary person. On this day, I accompanied Si Zhuoxiao to the cemetery to pay respects to my mother. Winter had arrived, and the cold wind swept through the air. Si Zhuoxiao stood by my side, adjusting my scarf and coat with gentle care. Finally, he playfully pinched my cheek. With a sigh of resignation, I looked up to find him bundled up like a little ball. I rambled on to my mother, sharing countless thoughts and memories. In a moment of solemnity, Si Zhuoxiao assured, "Mom, rest easy. I will love Shushu forever, protect him for a lifetime, and treat him with utmost kindness." Pausing, he glanced down at my abdomen, his eyes twinkling with joy, and our baby. Suddenly, delicate snowflakes began to drift from the sky, falling like soft tufts of fluff, quickly blanketing the earth in a tender white veil. Today I had forgotten to bring an umbrella. Si Zhuoxiao turned, placing his hand atop my head to shield me from the snow. I lifted my gaze and saw his hair rapidly turning white beneath the falling flakes. A peculiar warmth blossomed within my heart. I grasped his hand tightly, allowing the snow to settle upon my crown. Gazing at him, and the reflection of myself in his eyes, a smile bloomed at the corners of my lips. Together, we embraced the snow and the promise of growing old side by side. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story.